on YouTube for another episode. Hey, have you ever wondered why it's so difficult to build teams? It's so difficult to work with people. You know, every time you start trying to get people to work together, there's always a challenge. There's always an issue trying to get people to see things the same way. Well, today I got a treat for you. I'm going to actually let you in on some of the most powerful sessions I have helping entrepreneurs really begin to understand what it takes to, do different things that accelerate business. One of those things that we talk about is how do you actually build teams? How do you actually build a team? How do you get people on the same page and really build a team that can, help you to, accomplish things faster, get things done, make sure you accomplish certain goals? Well, today you're going to get a sneak peek of what it's like to be in what we call the power circle. And in the power circle, you get access to all sorts of information and all sorts of benefits because you get personalized coaching from me, and you're going to get an insight into a good amount of information about what it really means to build a team and what is it that you actually begin to do. What do you focus on? So please listen closely, and I'll be back to close this episode out. Enjoy. Now, one thing I want to call out with what we just kind of talked about. So we want to first, let's go back to the whiteboard for a minute. We want to know the game, right, that we're in. Based on that game, now we can start understanding the roles that we need, which is a lot of what you all talked about. So we can understand the roles that we need. Now, in giving you an example, using a basketball example, if we're talking about the sport of basketball, normally we have, and we'll translate this to business in a minute, we have a point guard. We got what's called a shooting guard. And there's other ways that this can be defined, especially basketball has changed today, but let's say a small forward, right? And you've got another forward and you've got a center. So all of these roles are very different. And some people, going in traditional basketball, your center is someone's going to defend and stop your competitor from coming in and scoring on you. And in business, we have something similar where we want to make sure that we're better than our competition, right? There's a lot of ways to translate that to real business. You got, your forwards that do a lot more rebounding and so forth. And you got, a shooter that's more about scoring. And you got another one that's more about facilitating and making sure that everyone is involved, right? And so, we can look at all the different games. There's a lot of ways to get into, not to get too deep into basketball or any particular sport. But one thing is, when you know the game, sometimes there's a strategy, even in how you determine the roles that you need. Now, we can see, and I'll give you an example in basketball, back in the olden days, it was all about having big centers and tall players and going inside and being bigger than everyone else. Now, does any of y'all know what's going on with how Steph Curry has changed the game of basketball, especially a lot of you here in the Bay Area? And but Steph Curry kind of changed the strategy. The game is still the same. But they figured out a way that if we can get some of these people that you expect to only rebound and defend to also be able to shoot, and if you can shoot at a level that is unseen before, because we're going to work on our skill to that level, then we can overcome an opponent in a different way. So a lot of times in business, it's not just about team, but we're thinking about specific to the game that we're in. Is there a different way that I want to establish the roles that I need so that my approach to the game has given me an advantage? So I want y'all to think about that for a minute and not just being traditional business and saying, all businesses like ours has a this person and that person and this person. But to think a little bit about, is there anything that you can think about strategically where you have a different approach? And it's not always has to be that the exact role is different. It could be a different approach to how you develop that role. how you develop the skills of that role. It could be a different approach into the opportunities you give that role that motivate them in a different way. I remember a time where if a basketball player was a certain height and they got to the three-point line and shot a three-pointer, they might get fired. Like, they might be out of the game forever. Like, you mean, what are you doing? But now today, coaches are they're wanting people to shoot more and do more. Why? The culture has changed because they saw a result or a benefit that can come from it. So the key is sometimes thinking outside of the box, you might change what a role normally did and give more opportunity and flexibility to a role because it might cause you to win the game in a different way. So sometimes when we're thinking about building team, it also has to do with how much flexibility and how much rein will you give to someone to be able to do more than is expected, which causes them to grow. And when they grow, it causes them to perform in a different way that's unexpected. So your competition only gets this and this from that role. You get this, this, and this. So now everybody in your company provides a different advantage that wasn't there before. So now we're going to get into maybe a little bit about, how do we go into doing that? But before we go too deep, I want to make the connection between the game and then the role. But there's a strategy to how you assemble your roles based on the game that you're playing. Because there's other people in your game, right? And they've got their roles and they want to beat you. So in this sense, the competitor is people in your industry. So can you think about people in your industry and the roles that they have, or have you studied them to think about how can I take a different approach than what they're taking, or be better at the same roles that they have? Is there anything I can do different to give me an advantage on my team, right? So, and you see this sometime when you're trying to hire people, you're thinking about, well, the person is saying, well, why should I work for you? Why do I want to stay with you? Why do I want to do business with you? Why do I want to partner with you? Why do I want to contract with you? You want to think about, the team you're assembling, the team that you're building, whether that's a vendor network, suppliers, employees, contractors. What is it that I'm trying to do in my strategy that's going to make my roles a little bit different so that they can perform at a higher level for us to win? So this is something I want you to keep in mind when we talk about this particular area. Now, so one thing that going a little bit deeper into this, so we start thinking about the team itself. And one thing that we kind of touched on, and Jamar kind of touched on this, which is really good. Actually, I want to go to 3 layers here. So one layer is external team. These are people outside the company. And then I want to say, I'm going to call this the monetized team. And these are people that directly are related to bringing in money. Like, there's a lot of people might help, but if this person don't do this, no money gets paid. Like when Jamar was talking about service providers who really provide a specific service, or when Christopher was talking about, actually providing a consultant service, that person who's going to do the work, there has to be a team that ultimately provides the value that people are willing to pay for. There might be a lot of people who help that really come to pass. They don't care about that though. There's something that they're buying from you, and there's people most responsible for delivering that, right? And then we have I'm going to call this the enabling team. And this is a team that enables everyone to go out there and make the money, right? So if they're not back there doing what is required, if someone's not keeping track of things, keeping things organized, answering the phones, making sure that things stay on point, what is supposed to be done by when, keeping things clean, making sure that things are professional. There's always people that we might be dependent on. Even sometimes in the business you're in, there might be a vendor that enables you to show up in a certain way. You know, they might be, help you with your uniforms. They might help you with a particular service that you outsource. That's very important. But you want to really be clear at what is those people that are inside the company that help you and enable you to do what you do. So I'm focusing a little bit more internal with these two. Are there people internally that enable more and some that are directly tied to bringing in money? So sometimes one of these teams is bigger than the other. Like, literally there could be, like a sales team that goes out, gets people to buy whatever it is. But if you don't have a team that also generates the value and enables that product to be delivered, you're still going to end up with some serious problems. So think about the different types of teams that are within the team. So that's also very important. There's teams within a team. When I was talking about basketball, the guards work together a little bit more, right? The forwards work together a little bit more on that team. If you look at football, there's an offensive team and a defensive team normally. And those teams are teams within the larger team of the football team. So you want to think about, are there any sub teams that you have to make sure that they know how to work together to supply whatever it is they supply to the overall team? So that is very, very critical. Now, when we're talking about building a team. Now, I want to take an individual for a minute and I want to split them in half here. And I want you to understand there's what people want to do, right? And there's what, I'll put it this way, what you need people to do. Okay? Now, if any of you know anything about working with people, do you all think that there's ever a time that this is in conflict? What do you all think? Is there a conflict between what people want to do and what you need people to do? Do y'all ever see this? Does this show up? All right, all the time. Absolutely. All right. All right. Good. Very much. Yes. So let's talk about this for a minute. What happens when people are good at doing what they want to do, but not good at doing what you need them to do? What happens in that scenario? So good at what, when they're doing what they want to do, they're solid, but they're not doing anything I need them to do. How does this impact the business? Wasted labor? Good. Because if you're not doing what's needed, there's waste being developed. That's very good. Anybody else? What happens when we see this scenario? No consistency? Good. So the ball starts to get dropped. Frustration. All right. Who's frustrated? Is the person frustrated that's doing what they want to do? Well, where's that frustration at? Loss of money? Good. Fail? Christopher, everyone frustrated. All right. Good. But honestly, the person who's doing what they want to do, they kind of like it, right? So from a team perspective, they kind of like that they're doing what they want to do. And in the end, you as a leader, you end up the more frustrated, and it also frustrates other people on the team who are depending on them to do what is needed, right? So here we start ending up with an impact on, the business. The goals are not being met. Okay, very good. Now, what happens? Let's flip that. Let's flip that, though. I got a trick for you here. What about when people are really good at doing what you need them to do, but they don't want to do it? What do y'all say about this now? They're good at doing what's needed. They'll do it. They don't want to do it. What's the issues here? So you all gave me a lot here with frustration and waste and so forth. Now I'm seeing bad attitude. That's right. Frustration is going to come out for them now, right? Bad attitude. Quality could start suffering. They're doing it, but not doing it in the best way. Very good. There must be a reason. Julie trying to dig deeper into why, all right? High turnover. That's good. So eventually, if they keep doing what's needed but don't want to do it, it could lead to turnover, people leaving, low morale, division on the team. Good. Same results. So maybe they don't like, so they don't care. Burnout. All right. Good. So you can see you can't be on either of these extremes. So when we're trying to build a team, the optimal blame game, I like that, Bradford, absolutely. Things can start happening where people are starting to blame. Maybe quality is going down because they really don't like what, they're not doing what they want to do. Then they start finding a way to protect themselves through blame. So the optimal situation is, we all know that when we take, when we're able to find that balance between want to do and need to do, we end up with this sweet spot. So in a perfect scenario, if we could find the individual that not only they want to do it, they want to do what we need them to do, right? That is what we want. They want to do what we need them to do. So here's the key. We talk about developing teams. So there's a critical question here. How can I use a different color here. How can I get someone to do what I need them to do and start to get them to want to do it? That's a critical question. So when we think about this, so let me do it this way. We think about our team member, right? And we know when we talk about what we want them to do, but in terms of the need, now what we want to do, we're trying to build a bridge, right? So this bridge that we're trying to build can come in different forms. And when we're thinking about building a team, one of the things that we kind of walked through a lot here, we talked about the game, knowing the game we're in and how that impacts the roles, the skills, and so forth. Now we're talking about different aspects of the team, internally, externally. When we start getting out into a person, when we really say want, what we're really talking about is motivation and happiness, right? That's really what we're talking about. Want to do just means I'm happy. I'm motivated and I feel happy. Now, how many of you would agree, even though there's things people want to do you feel that most people want to know that what they're doing is needed? What do y'all think? Even though we know everybody has what they want to do, but do you think that most people will want to just keep doing what they want to do but don't feel it's really needed? So you all agree there's already something inside of this person, right? Wants to feel needed. So that's as a leader, we have to remember that even though there's people who want to do certain things and they like doing things more than they do other things, there's one want that everybody has, for sure. They want to feel needed. Now, isn't that kind of deep? We're talking about wants and needs, but I'm telling you, everybody wants to feel needed. So the key here is, if I can build a bridge where I'm able to connect the things that I need them to do, right? And allow them to feel some of the motivation and happiness that they want, while also showing how it connects back to them being useful and fulfilling a need for the company. So they're important, because that makes me feel that, so what you might feel is needed is one thing, but there's another aspect of need is when we translate need to mean important, valuable, right? And so forth and so on, things related to that. That's something, when you say, I need you to do this, that's one thing. But when you say, when you do this, this is what you're creating for the company, and this is why you're important, and this is why you're valuable. That's a different energy. Now, we could go through some different scenarios here, but for sake of time, I just want to give you the pathway that one of the secrets as we try to build a team is to learn how to communicate and to speak in terms of helping people to understand their value to the bigger picture. If you can help them understand their value to the bigger picture, there's something in them that you can translate some of the things that they need to do that's not what they want to do, but they start wanting to do it because they do want to feel needed. I hope you can see what I'm saying. But I gotta really find a way to make a connection to how much value they're creating and how important it is, because there's something that's stronger than even the want of an individual to do what they want to do, and that is to want to feel needed. So if I can tap into showing them how they're fulfilling a greater need. So let me ask you this. Do you all feel, back to an athlete, a soldier, anyone who is fighting to win something, an outcome? What are some things that an athlete must do that is needed, but you might not want to do it? But if you want to be a good athlete, you got to do it. What do y'all think? What's some things that's needed? Training, all right? Track your performance, work out. All right, good. What else? Recovery. You speaking from some experience there. You can't just train, you got to recover. That's true. Stretching, sacrifice, good. Sometimes to train, you got to give up time doing something for fun. Listen to your couch. Okay, well, you mean not doing that, Julia? I think that's what you mean there. Your coach. I'm sorry. I saw a couch. I was like, that's my fault. Listen to your coach. Eating right. Good. Self-discipline. So all of this are things that people don't want to do. But why are they so motivated to do it? It's only because they value being important to the team that they're on to be able to win the game. So we have to think deeply as leaders. Sometimes I've had to take a step back and realize that I wasn't doing this good enough. I'm coming in telling everybody what they need to do. But have I done a good enough job connecting what they need to do with how we win the game? Making sure they see that bridge. Because that bridge is what causes them to want to do what is needed, even though they didn't really want to do that in the beginning. I have to build that bridge. Another thing with this bridge. So in one way, I'm going to use another color here. We're building a bridge of purpose. Helping one understand the purpose, right? Another thing is, one thing that we also have to be really good at doing is, as leaders, we have to learn how to manage energy. And there's an energy in every company amongst a team. Now, if you notice any team that is a losing team, there's a certain energy. If you just watch them, as soon as something goes wrong, people throwing their hand up, somebody arguing in the corner, you can see, every time the other team score, they look at each other like, why didn't you do what you're supposed to do? You can see a team that's winning and still they're losing a game, but the energy is different. They're a winning team with a winning mindset, so the energy is very different. So one thing that you got to realize as leaders, we have to be controllers and creators of energy. What type of energy are you creating among that team? Are you creating an energy for people to work together? Are you creating an energy that the boss is here, we better do what we're supposed to do? Are you creating an energy that the person who values us the most has shown up? Let's show them what we can do. And there's a way to get a team to want to do that for you because of the way you create energy. So we don't do it on purpose. Sometimes we're just we're wanting to get that team to win the game. And there's some coaches that are that way. They bark, right? They push, they drive people. And, sometimes that can work for certain types of people. But you want to find out. And again, some of this has to do with the game you're playing, right? And the roles. Sometimes the energy needed is different. It's very different in a sales environment than an education environment versus a service provider environment. What is needed in those different environments? Because those are different games. So you have to know what type of energy is needed and what type of energy is needed in each scenario. So there's some scenarios when there's a positive moment. What type of energy is needed? What type of tone do you set? When something goes wrong,